Give us a little bit of an overview of what you see happening in Texas right now, in the politics of the state, and then we can get into specific races. But I just want to get your take. Obviously, Democrats are always, and I've been one of them, hopeful that this cycle will be the cycle like it was, going back to Beto and others. So maybe you can walk me through that misery.
Well, a friend of mine was saying that he's been drinking the blue Kool-Aid every 2 years now for 20 years, and he's going to give it one more shot. But it is obviously a much better setup. First of all, I'll start by saying after a quarter century of a overwhelming Republican rule, one-party rule started in 1998. Republicans think that ownership of the state is an entitlement. And structurally, they've got a 10-point advantage over the last 8 or 10 elections. We're a plus 10 Republican state. But in 2018, Beto kind of shook the walls down a little bit. There was a combination of his charisma and the fact that the National Democratic Congressional Committee decided to try and unseat 2 Republicans, and they put $15 million into Lizzie Fletcher's race in Houston, Colin Allred's race in Dallas. So the combination of those 3 things, it was Democrats have just been starved for any kind of messaging money historically here in Texas, and they were overwhelmingly successful. Frankly, Beto was a deeply flawed candidate in the sense that the only national issue that impacted people in those days was the Republican promise to end Obamacare. And that meant losing your coverage for pre-existing conditions. And he never ran a single commercial on pre-existing conditions. He lost by 2 percentage points. And I remain convinced that if he had run a single commercial saying, which of the 2 of us do you think cares about your coverage, he would have won. But since then, that's been, once again, Democrats have been in a state of collapse. Tallarico, and don't forget that when Beto ran in 2018, it was a referendum on 2 very unpopular political figures, of course, President Trump and Ted Cruz. So they had the wind at their back, and the O'Rourke campaign been a little bit more about building the party than about himself. I still believe they could have gotten across the finish line. But in that campaign, Democrats gained a surprising 12 seats in the Texas House, taking it close to a tie. They flipped 2 congressional seats and 2 Texas Senate seats. I mean, it was pretty historic down ballot. But they lost ground continuously since then. Here we are in 2026. We were the pioneers in mid-decade congressional redistricting. But even in Texas, President Trump's approval is about 37% now. The number of self-identified independent voters is the fastest growing political entity in the state. Historically, it's been about 12%, and historically they tend to break Republican. But there's no sense of a Republican message right now. In fact, Tallarico has taken them by storm, obviously. The presumption was that had Cornyn won, that 10-point structural advantage that the Republicans enjoy, he would have been able to bring Republicans back home. There's no sense of that with Paxton. That 10-point structural advantage is now down to maybe a 2 or 3 point structural advantage, which is, as we both know, pretty competitive. Actually very competitive. Telerico is breaking fundraising records around the country. He's actually ahead of where Beto was at this time in his campaign. Had a little fundraiser here in Austin on Sunday night, raised a measly $300,000 in 2 hours. So, and the most significant thing to me, just because I've been watching this game for so long, is he's about party building. He's not about himself. I mean, obviously it's about himself, but he has multiple appearances with down ballot candidates. Well, Gina Hinojosa is the gubernatorial candidate who most of us don't think will be able to raise very much money, but mere proximity and also a Latina name is going to be pretty helpful. So we're about to test that sense of Republican entitlement, and frankly, nobody serious seriously in the party wanted Paxton to win, but that's the albatross they've got, and then that's bookended. I'll just wrap it up with this. At the bottom of the statewide ticket is a guy named Beau French running for Railroad Commission, who all I have to tell you about him is when he was Tarrant County, that's Fort Worth, Tarrant County Republican Party chair last year, he ran an internet poll. Who is more dangerous to the country, Jews or Muslims? That's the Republican ticket this year.
And so one of the things that I was sort of blown away by is how much money they spent in their Senate primary and runoff between Cornyn and Paxton, and how low, particularly in the runoff, the turnout seemed to be. I mean, it was almost like they spent millions and millions of dollars. You think that usually in a knockdown, drag out fight, you think usually that energizes a lot of people to come out for that fight and, and get their guy across the finish line. And it was, I don't know about you, I was kind of like stunned by how low it was. I mean, it is.
Well, negative advertising. Yeah. Negative advertising is designed to suppress vote, typically.
Right. Yeah.
Not suppress, depress vote. So there's a combination of it was Memorial Day weekend, and people had plans, and then I think that the Cornyn folks, I've known John forever, and the things he had to do to humble himself to try and portray himself as no air between he and Trump was really pretty humiliating. And it's very humiliating, actually. And I think that any number of Republicans, this is anecdotal, but that I know, that would typically vote in the primary said, well, if he's just going to prostrate himself to Trump, then what's the point? So the combination of just all the negative advertising and a dispirited Republican establishment vote, I think combined to produce that surprisingly low turnout.
So, around the country, we're seeing, more Democratic energy and independents breaking more towards Democrats than Republicans, which is, like you said, usually it's at least a little bit the other way, if not a lot the other way. Are you seeing that? In Alabama, we've been talking about this, that in the Democratic primary there, turnout was 116% over what it was for Democrats in the last time around, and Republican turnout was down 25%. Which in their primary, which is again sort of, you saw little signs of that with the Cornyn Paxton runoff. Is there an energy difference going on, or is it Telerico? Is it just he's so different that it's actually lifting up?
It's both of those. It's both. He is a charismatic personality and a unique flavor in Texas politics. And I have to just add one more element to that. Beto O'Rourke never served in the legislature, never served in the political office. He just had natural charisma. Telerico has been in the legislature multiple sessions. He's been on the tip of the spear in most of the debates. When he gets up on the front or back mic to either advocate or interrogate, people stop to listen because, he is just so rhetorically gifted. And he's been in the combat zone. There's no greater combat in Texas politics than the Texas House. So he's an experienced fighter, but with a happy face and a somewhat angelic disposition. And that's pretty unique. But